And here we go. Tertius expeditionem annos. So Tertius annos is our subject. The third year, genitive, of these expeditions, of these campaigns. Apperuit is our verb. Novas gentus. So there opened new races, or there appeared, or revealed. So in the third year of these campaigns, there appeared new races. That's plural. Vastastus usque ad Tarnum. Usque means as far as. Tarnum in English is the Tay. Estuary nomen est, so that this is the name of an estuary. Nationibus goes with the vastastus in the ablative. So these nations were devastated or raided as far as this estuary called the Tay. Qua formidine. That's female, and they're ablatives, which means which dread, terrari, of terror, hostes. So the enemy, by which this dread or fearing of fear itself, they dreaded this fear. Quamquam, although conflictatum savus tempestitatibus, exercitum lacere non orsi. So although they were conflicted with savage tempests, savage storms and weather, so the enemy were afflicted with this, non orsi, they didn't dare lacere, to provoke exercitum. This would be the Roman army out of this dread formidine of terror. Ponendisque. So we start off with an end, and we have a gerund, and the placing in super is an adverb. It means in addition to. Spatium fuit. There was enough space, we're probably dealing with time, for placing ponendis castles. These are the castles or the forts. So in addition to these raids which they did here, and the fear that the enemy had of them and didn't dare attack their army, there was a space for building castles or forts. Periti, the experienced, add notabant, that's imperfect, so the experienced people, that's plural, and the NT shows that the verb's plural. The experienced people noted that non alium ducam, so which means no other leader, this is accusative in a position. Opportunitates locorum sapientius, that's a comparative legacy. So the experienced people knew that no other leader, legacy, had picked more opportunitates, so a more fitting place or a better place, locorum of places, sapientius, so much wiser. Sapiens is wiser. Nullium, which means no, ab agricola, positum castelum. So no castle, no fort, positum, positioned ab agricola, by Agricola, so which had been built by Agricola, ought either v by force, hostium of the enemy, expugnatum, which is a storming, or pactione and fuga. These are ablatives, desertum. So there was no forts that were placed there by Agricola, either by force of the storming enemy or by any pact or treaty. Was it deserted or in fuga, flight? So they didn't abandon it at all. Nam. 4. Adversus mores. Adversus just means against these mores are delays or lingering. It's something to do with time. Obsidionis. These are, again, these besiegings. Ennuus copius firmabantur. That's a passive imperfect. So for against these delays, we'll say, of being besieged, they were firm, they were strengthened with an ennuus copius. This is copiousness of their abundances. The ennuus is a year, so they've got a year's worth of grain to protect against any of these really long, drawn-out attacks and besiegings. Ita, so thus or so, ibi, there, the adverb. Intrepida hemens, which is winter. Intrepida means an unworried, untroublesome winter. Cribrae eruptions. Cribrae is frequently, and eruptions are just sallies or burstings out. Erupted means coming out of. And sibi quisque, and each one, sibi for himself, that's a dative, had a presidio. They had their own garrisons, quisque. Each one of these winter camps which had frequent sallies. They all had protection for themselves and defences for themselves. In Ritus hostibus, with the enemy being in vain, in Ritus is in vain or uneventful. And eoqui, this might be for this reason, looks like an adverb again, not a pronoun. For this reason, they were in desperantibus. Because they'd been unsuccessful, they were in despair. Quia, because, soliti, that's plural again. They were accustomed. Plerum qui is an adverb, so generally, so they're accustomed generally. Damna estis, the losses of summer. Damna is the damage and the losses. And hibernus eventibus, with winter events, or the outcome of the winter. Pensare, this would compensate. So by having the events of this winter would compensate for the losses of summer. Tum, that's just means then. Estate and hemi, we have ablative forms here. So in summer and winter, juxta is an adverb, it means jointly. Sometimes it means next to, but it looks like in summer and winter, jointly, pelabento, they were repelled, they were chased away. Nec agricola unquem, so neither was Agricola ever, per alios gesta, gesta is the things done, or the deeds, per of others, was he avidus. This is adjectival or past passive going with Agricola. So he wasn't avid of intercepit, which means taking or taking credit for the gesta of other people. So Agricola at no point was greedy for taking credit for what other people did. Cu, which is one of my favourite or words. It usually takes one word or a very short sentence. So either a centurion, cu, or a prefect, or the prefix. In corruptum facte testum habebat. That's imperfect. So they considered him, they held him as incorruptum testum, as an incorruptible witness facte of the facts of his deeds. So whether they were either a centurion or a prefect, they found him to be giving true testimony. Apud quosdam acerbio, comparative in convicus, ablative narrativa. So amongst certain people, quosdam, that's the quos means plural accusative, it was narrated. So this narrated would have to be impersonal. So it was narrated amongst certain people, because apud's one of the prepositions that takes accusative, that acerbio, he was rather sharp in convicis. This is in his reproaches, that's what certain people said. Et, and, ut, as also that, erat, he was, commis bonus. Commis is friendly, bonus is to the good. So he was friendly to the good. Ut and ita, we have, and so he was adversus malos, so he was against the bad people, that's plural accusative. Inucundus, Jucundus is pleasant, so inucundus would mean he was rather unpleasant against the bad people, as he was friendly to the good people. Ceterum, it's a mild form of saying but. Ex iracundia, but from his anger, nihil supererat secretum. So there was nothing secret, supersum, remaining or left over. So from his anger, nothing secret would remain. Ut, so that silentium is, his silence, non timores, that you wouldn't fear his silence. Honestius, another comparative, putabat, so he was thinking, imperfect, it was more honester to offend, quam, than Odyssey, to hate. Odyssey is a perfect infinitive. 23. Quarta estes, the fourth summer, obtinendis, gerundive, quae percurret in sumpta. So the fourth summer was in sumpta, consumed with obtinendis, the obtaining or occupying, which, quae, the things percurret that he had ran through or he'd looked at. So we'll have the daily dictionary word, percurro, to run, hasten, traverse or pass through, wind or bend around, mention, the scan, look over or review, run through and penetrate. Okay, there we go. Now where will we? Ac, and see if virtus, this is the valor, exercitum, which is genitive plural. If the valor of the army and the Gloria, double genitive, of the Roman name Patricia would allow. Inventus, this is nominative plus passive or adjective, he would have found in ipsa Britannia terminus. He would have found the terminus, or the terminus inventus would have been found. The very edge of Britain itself would have been found. Namque. For the Clota and Bodrictia, which is the Clyde and the Forth in English, diversi, which means different, maris is the seas, aestibus is by the tides. And so by the tides, estibus, plural, of different seas, diverse maris, per immensum, that's through, immensum means a huge amount, revecte are carried. Okay. Angusto terrarum spatio. So angusto spatio means a narrow space, a dirimunta, which separates terrarum of the land. So what this is basically saying is the tides of the two different seas are carried through an immense tract of land where they are only separated by a narrow space of land. Quod, which is the relative, which, Spartium's a neuter, which then, firmabator, was firmed or strengthened, praesidius, with garrisons, and omnis proprior sinus tenebar, and all was held, omnis tenebator, proprior sinus. The sinus is a bay or a gulf. Proprior is belonging to it, or it's closer to this it was held. Samotis, this means moved, velut as if, in alium insulam, as if into another island. So the hostibus are what are submotus, these are ablative plurals. So with the enemy being moved as if towards another island. 24. Quinto expeditium anno. This is ablative, so it means in the 5th year of these expeditions, prima nave, in the first ship, transgressors. This is Agricola, he's crossed over in the first ship, ignotas, plural accusative, this is unknown, added tempest to this time, it's neuter and tempest is neuter. Unknown, gentus is races, crebris, so he made frequently, simul and simulac, or as soon as, is usually simulac put together, but and prosperous prolius, so with prosperous battles, dominuit, he tamed these ignotas gentibus. So he tamed the unknown races, frequent and prosperous battles. Iam qui partum. Partum's female. So, in the parts Britanniae of Britain, quae which, as Spicket, look over to Hibernia, which is Ireland, instructs it. He drew up it with forces. So he had a build-up of forces. In spam, in hope, magus more, quam, than, in hope more than, ob forbidden, because of fear. Si quidem, if there was any, if indeed, Hibernia, Ireland, medio inter Brittany and Hispania sitta. If it's situated, so if indeed Ireland is situated in the middle between Britain and Spain, and Gallico quoque mare, and also the Gallic Sea, opportuna valentissimam, which is a superlative, which means the most strongest part, imperium, of the empire. Magnus invicem, which in turns Eusebus miscreat. So they would mix together their forces. This would be the Britons and Spain, if they occupy all this stuff in the Gallic Sea. They would mix together for Magnus Eusebus for great use. Opportuna, this is opportunity or way of attacking them in this most strong part of the empire, Imperius Empire. Spartiumius, the space of this or the size of this, if Britanniae comparative, it's compared to the dative of Britain. So the space of this island, which we were talking about, which was Ireland, the island with an R in it, so island next to Britain, the size of it, if compared to Britain, superate, it's bigger than insulas, the islands, Angustius, which are more narrow, nostri maris, in our seas, which would be the Mediterranean Sea. So they're bigger than the islands with the Mediterranean. So we're going on to talk about islands still. Solum, which is the soil, calamque, and the heavens or the climate, and then Genia, which is the natural inbound characteristics. Cultus qui, there's the enclitic, and its culture, homonym of the man. Horde multum is not much, a Britannia different, not much different from the Britons. So basically the soil climate and their culture in Ireland is not much different than from Britain. In Melius additus, this is a fourth, portus is also a fourth. So something's better about the additus, the approaches and the ports per commercia. This is through commerce and negotiatio. These are the business people, cogniti. So we know these things better, the approaches and ports, because of business and commerce. Agricola, here's our nominative. Expulsum, someone in the accusative. Seditio domestica, so by domestic sedition, ornem, one who had been expelled from the regulus gentis, from regulus, these are minor kings or petty kings, gentis of the races, he exciperated. So Agricola ad nominative, he received one who had been expelled because of domestic sedition from one of the minor kingdoms. Ac, and speci, with the appearance, amicae is genitive, with the appearance of friendship, in occasion retinabat. He was retaining him, imperfect, for an occasion, that he could use him, I'll bet. Sapi, often ex eo ordivi. Often I've heard from him, this is Tacitus, una legione, with one legion, ablative, and with a modicus auxiliary, and with modest reserves, debella obtinerique. He could debella, he could fight and obtain or possess, posse, he's able to fight and to obtain Hibernium, which is accusative for Ireland. So the posse here is taking these infinitives. Idqui, and this, etiam even, adversus Britannium pro futurum. So this is prosum, would usually means it's a help. So this would be a help in the future, adverse as Britain, against Britain, if they did take Hibernium, which is Ireland. C, if Romana ubiqui arma, ubiqui is everywhere, so if everywhere, arma Romana, there were Roman arms at and velut, as if, e conspictu libertas tollere, as if they had taken away, tolerated, liberty, freedom, ex conspictu, from the site.